Welcome, Jeanette. I'm so excited to have you as a guest on my podcast. How are you today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me, Connie.
Yeah, I was looking forward to our conversation. So tell my audience, where in the world are you located? And one thing about you that has nothing to do with the topic we're talking about afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am in the USA in Michigan. So some people call it the Mitten State because we're surrounded by the Great Lakes, and it looks somewhat like a mitten. Everybody from Michigan identifies where they live like this. So it's
Oh,
kind of fun.
okay, that's
It's
funny.
awful. It's like such a telltale, Michigan people, because they're always like, "Where do you live?" Uh,
I never heard of that. That's funny. Thanks
yeah,
for
it's a
sharing
lot of
that.
fun. And something you might not expect about me is I love to be outside. I love hiking and camping. As much as I'm on the computer and I love my technology, I also love that balance of getting away from it and just camping. And I do live by the Great Lakes, and so it's so fun to just be on the
Mm,
water and be able to camp and get out and
yeah.
see the beautiful world around us.
Yeah, we have that in common a bit. So, me for maybe not so much camping, although I like camping, but I live on acreage with horses. So, yeah, I'm a completely computer geek, but then I need to go outside.
Yeah, that balance is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. So, let's see, how do we start this? It's such a broad topic, right? I'm really excited to talk with you about decluttering our inbox with ChatGPT, but let's first talk a bit about AI in general. Because yeah, so we're standing on the forefront of a AI revolution, like you say on your website. I think I read that, and all the so-called gurus and experts talk about this too. But
I do.
it can be a little bit overwhelming, and I feel like even I myself, as much as I'm excited about all the possibilities and opportunities, sometimes feel a bit overwhelmed and kind of like, oh, one more thing on the to-do list, right? So let's just first put out of the way what are the opportunities that we can dive into before we go like a little bit deeper? Just in general, what are the opportunities, especially for us business owners?
Yeah, such a great question. I love it. I was thinking we are just going to stick with email, but we get to talk about all the things.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Let's.
um, you know, I think the opportunities, especially for business owners, but even just in life, for to get a customized menu plan, to get a customized social media menu,
Mm,
to be able to put a blog post that you've written, or maybe you've had AI, right? But be
yeah,
able to put that in and go, okay, based on this, can you write 10 curiosity type social media posts to get people to click back through? Or
yeah,
for you, Connie, you could put in the podcast transcript, right? And go, okay, how do I get more traffic and get more new
yeah,
listeners to the
yeah.
podcast? I love getting feedback. That's another place like, ooh, I've got to sign this contract. What should I look out for in this contract?
Mm-hmm.
Or hey, I'm sending cold emails or I'm asking for favors. How should I word that email? Like, what could I do better? And I
Mm-hmm.
send in my rough, put in my rough draft, copy and paste it in and go, how can I make it even more effective with this goal?
Yeah, it's
So
almost like you have somebody to bounce your questions or your topics off, right? So that
yes.
was surprising for me too. It's like when I first tried out ChatGPT, that they actually, it's almost like a conversation. It's not like Google where they just throw something at you, which is sometimes good. Sometimes we just need that.
Mhm.
But you actually can have a really conversation. And I remember I was at an online conference and we got some prompts that we could put in, and they were just saying, yeah, play with these prompts a little bit. And I remember I was almost fighting with, not fighting, but arguing a little bit with ChatGPT because then they gave me something and I'm like, yeah, but that's a little bland. Can you not come up with something fancier? So yeah, it's kind of interesting. A lot of
The-
people are just so maybe scared or overwhelmed that they don't even try it. But in a way, it's kind of fun. We don't have to just rely on it 100%, but we can play with it and look at it as a yeah, somebody to bounce off our ideas or make them better, like you just
yeah,
said.
I say like pretend it's another business owner that you want
Yeah.
to sit and chat with, or even, for the moms who might be listening, Like, how do you, if you had another mom, you could ask that discipline issue to, or how
Hmm.
do you handle chores, or like, it doesn't all have to be business, right? Like,
Yeah.
it can be another person that you want to bounce ideas off of,
Yeah.
and if you've never logged in before, think if you had to write an email, I'm old enough that I remember Dear Abby. It was a big thing in the US in the newspaper, and you could write your life question to Dear Abby,
Yes.
and it'd show up in the newspaper. They'd put your question, and Abby would answer.
Yeah.
If you think about it, as simple as just go in, ask a question that you've been working
Hmm.
with, and see what it says, just to play with it a little bit. Ask about what you should have for dinner. I have these things in my refrigerator. What can I make? Give me a
Yeah.
few recipes, right? Like, if you've never done it before, whether you're a mom or a business owner, I'm both. I use it for both. And it really is nice. Like you said, it feels more, does feel like a real conversation. It's
Yeah.
almost creepy how much it feels like a real conversation.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like a chat that you have with somebody that you know, or like it's of course you don't hear. I don't know whether they, well, you might be able to hear, but I so far only did the writing part with I gave it a name. Like, okay,
Yeah.
you're just like, I'm asking you all these questions now. Yeah, I like it too. Although there is, of course, scary parts to this whole AI because we're kind of thinking like, oh, okay, are they going to take us over? Are they going to become dominant over us? Because it's mind-boggling that you can ask a question and they can basically pull in all the information so fast, all the information so fast, and give you an answer, and you're like, okay, we could never keep up with this, but yeah, we can take advantage of it if we're doing it smart,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And at this point, and I don't think it'll stay this way forever, but at this point, it's not learning anymore, right? Like they taught
Mm-hmm.
it, pardon me, they taught it up to September 2021, all the information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not continuing to learn to, or it feels like it though when it starts spitting out information to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But yes, everything it knows, but somebody had said a statistic, and I need to fact check it, but they said if it was information in books, the books would reach to the moon and back. Like, that's how much information is
Yeah.
stored there. And the ability, like you think about it as recall in humans, but the ability for it to assess it all and spit it out, it is intimidating, I think, to our human
Yeah.
brains. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we need to get used to it because that's probably just the beginning. Like you said, we're on the onset of a revolution. It's probably just gonna be the beginning. And all these people who say, "Oh, it's so scary, it's so scary," I think we also have some control over it because we're feeding it, right? So like we have it under control what we're feeding it. And of course, if we're feeding dark stuff, then dark stuff is coming back. It
Mhm.
reminds me of like I'm old enough that when I started my business career, it was almost like a novelty to have a computer on your desk, right? It's like,
Yes.
and then it was just starting that everybody started to have. Like we didn't have personal computers yet. We still had these just monitors that were connected to the, I don't even remember how it was called, to the main thing, and you couldn't really do anything much with it, right?
No.
And then the personal computers came where you had where you could actually input stuff and then ask for output. And I remember the IT people always said to us when we had a problem, they always said like garbage in, garbage out, right? And it's a little
Yeah.
similar with AI, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you and I, we might not be in the position to put knowledge in, although that could come, but in general it is what are we putting in, and that's what is coming back, and there is also where we can maybe minimize the danger a bit, who knows.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not throwing my social security number in there, and I'm not throwing my credit card numbers in there, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
I'm cautious. And even when dealing with clients, I don't put client names in there.
No, no,
I'm
of
just
course.
aware that we don't know what we don't know yet. But
Yeah.
beside
Exactly.
that, I love the power of I've always been a math-minded person.
Hmm.
And so it's actually, I've noticed, helped me become a better writer.
Yeah.
Um, because I tell it, and I created a small ebook, like workbook, so that the listeners can do this as well. But
Hmm.
train it to do my voice, and I just have something like in a text expander that I put in all my prompts so it can actually sound like me. Like,
Yeah.
what is my tone and what is my emotion that I want the person to feel? It's helped me in my leadership role to
Mm-hmm.
consistently be the same type of leader because I've got it identified and defined.
Mm-hmm.
And now I find that finding it easier to write the way I want to be seen, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many examples. So it's actually made me more creative and more consistent so
Mm-hmm.
that when, as a business owner, you always want it to be consistent. You don't ever want them to feel like, oh, I heard you on a podcast and now I'm over here on your
Yes.
website and it doesn't match. Like, you're
Yeah.
not going to get business that way, right? And
Yeah.
so it's got to match.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think so. We should match like how we show up on podcasts, how we show up in interviews with how we are, how we really are, like us, like authentic, right? And so, yeah, if we use, and that's I think a lot what people say with using AI for us, or especially for copywriting or writing emails and stuff, that oh, then you just sound like out of a can, but that doesn't have to be that way. It's you can literally, like you just said, you can train it to sound like you,
that's
teach
right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I've
what I'm
included some
wondering,
examples for
oh,
you. Sorry, I did not mean to talk over you.
no, I talked over you maybe. I don't even know.
Oh, yeah. So I included like some examples of how you can make it sound different. Like definitely different adjectives, different emotions that you want the reader to feel,
Yeah.
which is, it's really takes some of the emotion out of it and makes it more logical, right?
Hmm.
Which for me is very helpful.
Yeah. So one question I have for you is also is like, because we were just talking about overwhelming, for me is I'm still struggling a bit, and I'm put struggling in brackets because it's not really struggling, but I still forget, let's say like this, I still forget that I could go and chat with ChatGPT about what I'm just about to do, because I'm still so used to, okay, now let's write this, or let's write that. How do you personally incorporate it into your daily life? Like, how did you get your
Mm.
brain to remember, oh, wait, that's a good opportunity to go ask ChatGPT. Now I can't say it. ChatGPT right now.
Right. It is a tongue twister. I've noticed that too, just being on podcasts and so forth. Um, the one thing that I've done is if I find myself stalling on an activity that I know has to get done.
Ah,
So I put a sticky note, are you stalling? Go over it and put
okay.
it into
Oh,
ChatGPT. Like,
I
I
love
just kind of
that.
put a little reminder. It's like if you're going through those emails, like that's what will get there, and you
Yep.
keep skipping that one because you don't know how to reply.
Yeah.
That's, or you've got to write that blog post, or you don't want to do the podcast notes, or
Yeah.
whatever it is you're avoiding.
Oh,
That's
I
what I
love
try to
that.
remind myself. That's
Preventing
the way.
procrastination with it. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. Definitely have things that I'm kind of having over here. I sometimes don't want to admit it, right? I call this then also, it's also kind of clutter, because it would, because it's mostly, it's then intellectual clutter too, because you always have it in the back of your mind and you still have
Yeah.
to do it, right? So it's double and triple clutter. It still clutters up your, let's talk about inbox. So with the email, it still sits there. You need to answer. So, and then oftentimes more organized people think then, oh, okay, so I'm gonna put myself a to-do that I need to answer this email. So then we have already two places where it is, and it's
Mhm.
still hanging in our head, and we're still procrastinating, not doing it. So lots of clutter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So that's one way how you're using it to declutter your inbox, right? Proactively, to
Yes.
prevent procrastination. So what are other ways how you, let's dive into the inbox part, because that's, I just read somewhere on Facebook yesterday or this morning, somebody said they had 197,000 emails in their inbox. And I'm like,
Makes
and
me
I'm freaking out if I have 50. It's like, oh my
it does. It makes me feel like, oh, stress. I do
God.
not like that. Well, in every single, really the mentality of your inbox is every single one of those is a to-do item.
Yeah.
And so if you've got 197,000 listed out, how do you even make space for your brain? Like,
in
even if
in
I'm skipping those 4 and leaving them in there,
yeah, yeah.
then I'm wasting brain space making an excuse for myself of
Yes.
why
Yeah.
I'm allowed to leave them
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
They
Exactly.
and then they're still sitting there in the
But
back.
luckily, with 197,000 emails, you don't have 197,000 tasks. Luckily, in my eyes, you have two
Mm,
tasks. First, you're going to delete everything or archive. If you're freaking out about deleting, then you're archiving it. Archiving it, everything that is older than, let's say, 4 weeks. Let's say 4 weeks. And then look how many hundreds, hopefully only, you have left. And then the second task is going through those, you know.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, and a part of me, I even had one client where I'm like, she was okay with deleting every single one of them because
Mhm.
she goes, "If they need me, they'll email a second
Yeah,
time."
and that's the
Right?
thing. I sometimes really don't understand why people keep them all because A, there is no way that you ever get to 197,000 emails. Even if there were some important ones in there, the train probably left the station already, or they came back and nudged you until you answered. So you can oftentimes you really safely can just delete them all. But
Mhm.
for people, I have compassion. I sometimes don't want to delete stuff either. So if you feel like you can't delete, at least archive and get it out
That's right.
of your view where you every day look that there are 197,000 thingies.
Yes. It just feels like clutter surrounding me. Yeah, and I love setting up like you and you've probably talked with your audience, if they're following you, they probably are doing a lot of this stuff, but like filtering.
Yeah.
I like to filter everything that's got the word unsubscribe in it
Mm-hmm.
to a newsletter mailbox.
Yeah.
Like that's not something urgent. If I want to go find it, it's there.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
it's but when you've got those emails that are maybe if you're a business owner and it's customer service, and sometimes those aren't fun. Sometimes they're and especially if like the dogs are barking and you spilled your coffee and you're just not who you want to be right in that moment.
Yeah.
ChatGPT can allow you to construct, given your voice, given who you want to be known for, and
Mm-hmm.
construct a response that
Mm-hmm.
is often much better than what you're going to do rushed and feeling like I've been putting this off four
Yeah.
days and I need to get it done.
Yeah.
You
And it's
know?
almost like it's really a time saver and not an extra to do because most people could push back and say, "Oh, it's an extra to do, then I have to first go and ask ChatGPT what to say." But because you're not procrastinating, you're actually going over there, copying it maybe in and ask how could I reply in a compassionate way, and I want to be a compassionate leader or whatever you type in. Maybe you can give us some hints here. um, you're actually progressing it and you're getting it out of your inbox and off of your to-do list, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. In the workbook that I said I'll have for you,
Mm-hmm.
I actually have it where you can customize it for your tone, your
Mm-hmm.
emotions that you want your voice. What are some of your taglines you say everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like chaos to peace,
Yeah.
obviously, is, what you're all about. Put some of those under your voice. What do you want to be known for?
Mm-hmm.
But then now that you've got all that done, you don't need to go in and retype it into ChatGPT every time. It should be a copy and paste. And so I've made a workbook where you can just now you'll have your prompt with your voice,
Yeah.
and all you got to do is now paste the email right in.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got
Yeah.
the prompt and you can just paste it in and at least get, even if you don't like using it, square up, which most people are going to want to edit it to make sure it sounds, those little things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I strongly suggest don't ever like not read it and just assume it's good. Um,
No.
it can make mistakes, just like it's
Yeah.
learning from humans who've made mistakes. So,
Yeah.
um,
No, I look more like at it like sometimes like I used to just keep certain emails where I felt like the wording was really good or how somebody reacted to some, I don't know, to some topic. And so I look more as it's almost like a swipe file, but you would never just copy what somebody else
right,
wrote. So you would take it as inspiration and say, "Oh, I really like how this person worded this or addressed this," and let's do the same with ChatGPT. Now, a very technical question. So for those who were in ChatGPT already, they know you can start different conversations. So do you suggest we keep the one conversation open and always go back there? Because it's almost like ChatGPT remembers everything that you said before, so you don't have to always put your emotion or your requirements in
Right.
again.
No, you're absolutely right. You can go in and just like edit that first prompt over and over again because it's going to remember. Like, right, it's going to have the stuff. What you want to remember though is it only remembers so many tokens. So if you have the free version, it's around 4,000. If you have the paid version, it's around 8,000. When you think of tokens, I always think of it like a teleprompter.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a long teleprompter, but it's
Yeah.
only a teleprompter. And once stuff falls off the top, it's like you never said it.
Okay.
So as you're typing into the bottom, if you get too long, it actually will lose the stuff at the top.
Ah,
And
I didn't
you'll
know
see
that.
it kind of goes off the rails.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
it'll all of a sudden be like, ooh, that's okay. We just
yeah.
ran out of token. And tokens are hard to explain, but basically it's like one syllable. It's a measurement
Okay.
of memory.
Okay. So it's
So
not the word count. It's almost it's even smaller. Okay. Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's good to
So,
know. That's good to know. Yeah, and I mean, I think what I love is you can just start with the free version and check it out before you decide, okay, yeah, I really want to explore that more and go to the paid version. Although I think I'm still on the free version. I think I have to move over because when I last time wanted to log in, it said, oh, there's too busy, you can't log in. And I think when we're paying, then we have more
yes.
the chance that we get in, right?
Yeah, I have the paid version and I've never, since paying, I've never been denied access or the ability to get in.
Yeah.
Once in a while, it will be busy and I'll get like a little error and I just hit refresh and then it comes right up. So it's like I'm not waiting hours to get in. It's just that next second. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is legit too, because we're in one way we're so used to that everything should be free, but I don't agree with that because we all need to feed our families, right? So it has to at a certain point has to be paid. And I like that we can try it out for free, but then when we really want to use it, we should actually pay for it for the service. This is energy exchange, I call it. You know, it's like if you're always just using something for free, it's almost unbalanced, right? So
Yeah. And that paid version has some really cool features and the plugins are really exciting when you get working with them. And one of them is called Link Reader. And what you do is just put like you're not copying and pasting everything anymore.
yeah.
It is, you can put the link to the Google Doc and it will go read it and come back. Or you could put a link to a sales page, your sales page, and say, how can I make it more effective? Yeah, so it really makes everything much faster for a business owner, you know, and probably as a mom as well. Hey, we've got all these things for school. How do I organize all of this? Right. Like, between swim team and track and my son's broken leg and right. And like, I can just go and put the links in and get it to set my schedule for me, which is really nice.
It sounds amazing. Yeah, I never even thought of I could do that. Yeah, I don't have children to manage, but yeah, that could be challenging. You have 2 or 3 little kiddos, and everybody has a different schedule, and you have to get around that. And then you have your own schedule, and then your partner's schedule if you have one. And oh yeah, so that
Well, I
could
even
really
think like you've got your horses that probably need to be fed and
yeah
exercise a certain schedule. And I mean, we all have our things,
yeah.
whether it's,
Well, my
yeah,
horses
I'm a little jealous of your horses. So I probably
I'm
bring it up a few times here.
so I'm always somebody for making things easier for me. And so the more you let, for example, we don't need to stay with horses, but the more you let horses live most natural way, even though of course you have them in captivity, so they're not natural. But if I don't lock them into a box stall, but they have
Oh, nice.
a lot of freedom left, it frees you up too. It's like I sometimes can't understand how people can lock these poor animals into box
Right.
stalls, and because then you literally have to go. And I mean, they're so dependent on you. Mine, they have a lot of freedom. So and I actually intentionally don't go every day at the same time, so that they're understanding that I'm not coming every day at 8 in the morning. Sometimes it's 7 in the morning, depending on what's going on in my day. Sometimes it's 9, but they're not suffering because they're anyways out and about and they can always nibble on something. So
Right.
yeah, so
Oh,
I don't know
so
whether ChatGPT would help me with my
no,
horses
probably
necessarily,
not.
but I can. The more I talk with you, the more ideas I have. How else I can enlist it as a. It's almost like a private secretary, and say like, oh, can you figure out what's the best way to do this, or can you figure out when it's the best day to for me to do? When would it fit in my calendar?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a personal assistant, really,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
quite nice.
Yeah, but
That's
that's
all
where
I
I
need.
see that it could be very overwhelming because it has so many options and so many opportunities that people are like, "Oh, I don't even know where to start." So, where would you suggest people start with their inbox, or do you have another suggestion where they would start?
Um, I do. I really like for it to answer the emails. I think you can really learn a lot about the power of it. But
Okay.
then I also encourage you to just play with it.
Mm-hmm.
Go in and play. On Valentine's Day, I had it write a play for my kids and the
Mm-hmm.
dog. We put a little hat on the dog and we acted out a play. But it's just fun for, middle schoolers to be silly and have
Uh-huh.
fun with it. We did that with dinner and it took us on a scavenger hunt into the backyard,
Uh-huh.
and wrote that up for us as well. So it was just fun.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but as far as where to start, I'd say, what do you not enjoy doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd start there. For me, answering difficult emails, that's probably why I lean that way. I
Mm-hmm.
don't enjoy that. Like I know how I want them to feel. I want them to feel validated and encouraged, but I
Mm-hmm.
also want to be a woman that is a leader and has strong boundaries. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I really struggled with that balance between
Yeah.
those two things.
Yeah.
And and so putting it into Chat GPT has helped me learn some different wordings and some different ways of doing that that has
Mm-hmm.
made it a win-win,
Mm-hmm.
um, in really cool ways. So for me, that was super, like that release of the mental energy was huge. But
Mm-hmm.
now it's built into, okay,
Yeah.
how can I use it for my marketing? How can I use it for anything I don't like? Social media, sometimes coming up with those catchy headlines is
Yeah.
hard for me.
That's my bummer. I actually I feel it's often such a time waste because yeah, then I'm sitting there and I don't know what to write or it's not catchy enough, and then either I don't do anything or then I just throw something up and I feel afterwards it's actually not even that good. But so yeah, I always love to give my listeners like practical steps so they can actually go and do it. So let's I know you said you have written this cool ebook and they can download that, but let's just summarize real quick. How would you do this with a difficult email that you have to answer? So what are the exact steps that you would take to
Yes.
like 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing? And then they can get your book and they can try it out with one of theirs, but it might be
Yes.
nice for
Let's
them
do
to
it.
hear it from your voice. How exactly does Jeanette do this? So
Yes.
a difficult email comes into your inbox. So take us through your process.
Yeah, so as soon as I notice that I don't want to answer it, or I
Yeah.
get one of those knee jerk, oh, darn it, it's that person,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's just not going to be pleasant. Um, I will actually go into Chat GPT and say, I need to answer this email. And I
Mm.
give a little context. So I'm going to make something up. This
Yeah.
is a client that doesn't take feedback well, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe they sent something in that's really not high quality. And I need to give feedback so that they can get the result they want
Mm-hmm.
in a way where they can receive it and make the changes that they need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would be a good example, like
Yeah, that's a very
getting
good example.
something that you're like, ooh, no, do
Yeah.
not, right?
Yeah. And then do
Um,
you copy the email in afterwards? After you gave the context, you copy the email
mhm,
in. So that
I
would be then
do.
step 2, kind of.
Yeah, so I would say step one is giving the information of what is the context?
Mm-hmm.
Step 2, I would put a goal.
Ah,
What is
okay.
the
Mm-hmm.
goal for them and what is the goal for me? So that's
Okay.
always step 2. This for me takes all the emotion out of it, takes the clutter out, it makes it very
Yeah.
logical. I want them to feel supported. I want
Mm-hmm.
them to feel motivated to take action. I don't want to own their project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Exactly.
I want to give them really good feedback
Mm-hmm.
in a way that motivates them, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
goal is that they're not, and for me, I would even say, and I don't want to hear 10 more questions at the end. Like
Yes.
whatever it is, right? And
Yeah.
I'm thinking of obviously
Mm-hmm.
somebody, but that is a great way to do it. So step 1 is, context. Step 2 is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Step 3, I paste it in,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I need the answer to the email. This is what I want, the goals.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the email, enter.
Yeah.
It's going to give me something. Now, if you notice anything in that, let's say it uses language you wouldn't use,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I try not to use the word but. I don't like to negate.
Mm-hmm.
Like if
Mm-hmm.
I say a compliment, I don't like to use the word but because I feel like it negates. So I would
Yeah.
put that, like, let's not use any language that would negate the statement. So
Mm-hmm.
no buts, no howevers.
Yeah.
Things like that you can edit. And the nice part is if you go up to your original, they call them prompts. If somebody's listening that's brand new, if you
Mm-hmm.
go up to that original prompt or set of instructions, there's a little pencil next to it. So if you don't get what you want, you can hit that pencil. So
Mm-hmm.
that would be step 4.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the pencil, edit your prompt so that it's
Yeah.
more specific
Okay.
if needed. And
Yeah.
you just hit save and resubmit and you'll get a brand new email. And there's
Okay.
little arrows. If you like the first one better,
Yeah.
over. You probably like something from the first one and something from the second one,
Yeah.
right? And that's your
Uh-huh.
inspiration. There's your swipe file. And
Yeah.
then step 5, go back to your email and answer it and get it off your plate. Clear the
Yeah.
clutter.
Yeah.
Clear the clutter.
Awesome. I love it. So really 5 easy steps, and it's fun. And maybe for somebody who has never used ChatGPT, maybe you don't use your most important email where you have to answer. Maybe you
That's right.
start with something easier. But yeah,
Yes.
so easy and so much fun. So much fun. And you feel
Right.
supported maybe and even encouraged to do it.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say if you've never gone in to OpenAI is the website, you need to go and get your account, and then ChatGPT is where you actually have the conversations. If you've never done it before, go in and take a minute and just start a conversation and
Yeah.
say, hello, how can you help me?
Yeah,
Right?
that's a good idea too. I like that idea too. Yeah. Don't treat it like human, but treat it like something in between, like a
Mhm.
conversation partner or something. And hey, listen, how can you help me? Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. The one secret that I learned way early that has helped me learn how to write prompts so very well is I'll say, I need to write, let's say it's a blog post. I want it to be about this. Ask me questions one at a time until you have enough information to complete the task.
Oh, awesome.
And then it teaches you what they need in order to make it sound like you and to be a
Mm-hmm.
good prompt. And that works really well as well. It's a lot of fun to kind of see what does it actually ask.
Yeah. I love that. You gave so so many ideas and so much for us to work with. I love it. I love it. So I really encourage everybody to go try this out because it's a lot of fun. And so now, Janet, tell us, where can people find you and where can they find that ebook that you were hinting about and teasing us with the whole time?
Yeah. Well, I just had so much fun putting it together, knowing we were going to have this conversation. So my name is Jeanette Stein. And so my website is JeanetteStein.com/Conny. So I've made a special ebook just
Uh,
about reducing that clutter in your inbox. And it'll teach you how to make it sound like you, give you the prompt that you can copy and paste,
mhm.
and have it all ready for you so that you can clear that clutter, get
Yeah.
that nice space that you need so that you can live your best life.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I will definitely put the links in the show note, and I will go get that because I want to see. I will go get that ebook. I want to see what you're saying. So because well, I'm a little bit of a information collector. I
Yes,
love um, getting input from all kinds of places, and then I make my own out of it. So I hardly ever use something just out of the box, so to
right.
speak. I always, but I then connect it with whatever I have already. I'm definitely gonna go and check out what suggestions you're having, and I add them to the ones I have already. That's so awesome. So before we wrap up, you have any last words you want to leave my audience with? Some of them are probably overwhelmed, don't even start, because that's often what we do. We procrastinate, we don't even start. Others are so scared to even touch it. Do you have any last words of wisdom for those?
Yeah, I would encourage you just to go and try it.
Mm,
Even if you try it from someone else's account, just to get a sense
mm-hmm,
of what it can do for you. And
mm-hmm.
remember, it's, when you see those stories about it taking over the world, it's taking the stories it already knows. It's half Terminator and half, whatever
Yeah.
shows have been out there. And that's okay. Like it's taking from that creative writing and all the stories out there. I would encourage you to test it out and see what it's about,
Mhm.
especially for you parents out there. It's really good to know what your kids are looking at and what they have access to.
Yes.
It reminds me a lot of when the internet came out and there was no filters back in those days. I was teaching high school
Yeah.
and it was kind of the Wild West and it was scary. And we're kind of in that same spot.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're like, yeah, this might not be for me, I would strongly encourage you to check it out to at least know what's going on around you or
Yeah.
with your children or with your loved ones.
I think it will be even like I read something that it's going to be even bigger than when the internet came, and
Mhm.
it will change the world. And we can sit here all we want and say, oh, it's scary, I don't want it. I think we probably don't have much choice. So, because the world will move forward whether or not you're fighting it, right? And so, as like you just said, I find that is a very important point that you made. I find it important to say it again. As parents, you probably want to know what your children interact with, let's say like that, interact with, and in what world your children are moving into. And they will, no matter whether you're thinking you're against it or not, they will. And
They will.
so, yeah, very good point you made here, Jeanette. Thank
Yes, I
you.
remember people being against the internet, and now I look
Yeah,
at my phone and I'm like, I've got the whole computer more powerful than
yeah,
anything our
yeah,
students had 20 years ago
yeah.
in my hand, and so
Yeah.
it's
Well,
all
it's
there.
always so I remember when people were against TV, right? Because that
Yes,
like that's how old I am. Well, not quite, but still, I mean, when I was growing up, TV was still like, oh my God, what? You're letting your children watch TV or something, right? And I read in some because I do a lot of research and I love just reading up on stuff. They were against books back then too, right? Like
they
when the
were.
books came out, when Gutenberg started to make sure that everybody can, they were against books. And when you read some voices from that time, it's like, oh, it's gonna our future is doomed because of books. And then
Yes,
it was doomed because of radio, and then it was doomed because of TV, then it was doomed because of the internet, and now we're at the AI revolution and we're gonna be all doomed or not.
or not. I like that. That was great. Yeah, I know. I remember reading a story that they thought the ballpoint pen, because the kids didn't have to have patience to dip
Yeah, yeah.
the ballpoint pen was going to be the end of it. It was going to ruin the children.
It ruins everybody. Yeah, it's
Yep.
and then we're always going further. And I feel too is like we're sometimes in an age we have to remember back. I often joke and say I sound like my own grandmother, and I don't mean this disrespectful at all, but time, like society moves on, people, humanity moves on, and so we have to understand that like two generations back, like our grandchildren or our children, they're growing up in a different world, and we can say all we want. Oh, this is going to ruin all the everybody, or no, it's probably not. It's a different world, and we're our own grandmothers now that had a hard time. Like my grandmother never really got the internet revolution, but TV was the big thing, and
Yeah.
yeah, so
So here we are.
here we are, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it was so much fun to have you as a guest. I mean, as we noticed, we could chit chat much longer, but maybe I have you come back on in a few months when this is all a little bit more established even, and let's hear then how you're using it then, because I'm pretty sure you evolve with your processes too. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That would be fantastic, Connie. I would love it. It's always a joy talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks so much for coming up.